Hey everybody, Alex Newman here with the New American. And as you guys probably realized, Biden is going a little bit wild with the executive orders. I mean, on his first day, he was vaporizing tens of thousands of jobs. Now he's going to use his pen and phone for all sorts of new policies. He's ordering schools to allow people of whatever gender into whatever bathroom. He's really just kind of picked up where Obama left off. And with us today to talk about the legal component of all this and also a little bit on how to resist is Alex Johnson. He is an attorney in Georgia. He is a partner with Bernard and Johnson, and he handles civil matters. He handles the firm's civil practice and what they do with that. Very, very well known. He's been interviewed by Yahoo News. He's been on Fox News, the Ingram Angle. Got lots of experience litigating on behalf of, and I thought this was so interesting. I can't wait to talk about it. He has lots of experience litigating on behalf of people who have been wronged by government bureaucrats and government officials. And you hear so many lawyers, "Oh, we can't do that. Where they got immunity, can't touch that." Well, Alex is going to tell us how it's done. He also has a lot of experience representing individuals, businesses who've been harmed in different ways, not just by government bureaucrats, also in car accidents, things like that, wrongful incarceration. He really does have a history of standing up for the little guys in a way that not a lot of attorneys do. And his background is just incredible. He was he's general legal counsel for the DeKalb County Republican Party. He was the president of his student government. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. He's got incredible experience, member of all sorts of organizations. Alex, thank you so much for being with us today.
Well, thank you for having me, Alex. Really appreciate it. I'm glad to be
Hey,
here and appreciate the introduction. I do try to fight for the people against oppression.
Hey, well, we sure appreciate that. It would be very nice if there was more lawyers who were willing to do that. Maybe there wouldn't be quite as many lawyer jokes, right? If people would do that. But hey, Alex, I really wanted to talk to you about what's coming down from the federal government. I mean, it just seems like a deluge. We can't even keep up with the amount of unconstitutional stuff just flying out of D.C., whether that's from executive orders. Now Congress has all kinds of things in the works. Tell us a little bit about the Constitution, how it relates to all of this, and then maybe some on how can we resist this at the state level? Can our states, can our local governments play a role in protecting us from unconstitutional executive decrees?
I mean, I think that over the past year and almost year and a half now, the thing that I think many of us have forgotten, I know that for at least a few weeks, I mean, it shocked me, is that the constitutions were pretty much ignored. And when I say constitutions, I'm referring to state constitutions and the federal constitution. I mean, we all have natural rights, which we have by virtue of being born, but the constitutions that protect those rights really were just sort of shredded, and I think a lot of people didn't notice when it happened. I mean, here in Georgia, I'm representing a number of plaintiffs, including a group called I Do Not Comply, that have retained us to fight Governor Kemp's executive orders regarding the COVID. And I mean, the Georgia Constitution makes it very clear people have a right to peacefully assemble for their common good, that you can't lose your life, liberty, or property except with due process of law. And that's in the federal constitution, it's in the state constitution, and still they're doing it to people. And that's, I mean, what else do you call it when people's businesses get shut down, when they aren't able to see their dying family members in nursing homes because the government says you can't? That's what we're facing, and those are the type of things that usually only happen after a criminal prosecution, and instead it just happened to all of society at once. So to fight it, I mean, we're suing Governor Kemp to get that redressed, and also just trying to get the word out to make sure that people understand that this is not a Republican government. I mean, that isn't what you do in a republic. I mean, you don't have the government dictate to people in such a matter. And I think that ultimately maybe the lawsuit will get Republican elected officials to realize they need to stand for individual rights.
Yeah, it's such an important thing you just mentioned. I remember before he died, Justice Scalia actually talked about how there's this tendency in the court system that whenever there's a emergency of whatever kind, in fact, he was talking about the mass internment of Japanese is the context he was talking. But whenever there's an emergency, the courts have a tendency to kind of just let government and governors and presidents and everybody go wild. Do you think we're kind of coming back from the brink on that? I know a lot of states now are. I'm here in Florida. We've been super blessed. We never had any of these goofy mandates, but I know even some of the other states, Texas has now kind of eased up on those restrictions a little bit. Mississippi. Are we coming back now from the brink, or are we just going full speed toward the cliff? Where do you think we are?
I mean, I think I don't think we know right now because I think that most of this is based on political calculations. I mean, being very involved in the Republican organizations in Georgia, I've realized that a lot of times these politicians do not act based on a set of principles. They act because they don't want to look bad. And I think that that just shows a lack of leadership in our society that's existed for probably decades. I mean, one thing that's happened is that the legislature here in Georgia just tried to pass or is in the process of potentially passing some laws to restrict executive power. Part of me thinks that it's a show, especially since the governor's already threatened that he's going to veto those bills. And I mean, in Georgia, state government is controlled by Republicans, yet they're putting on a show of fighting each other when in reality what it should be is that the governor and the legislature should be respecting individual rights, but they haven't been. I mean, to the extent that the Georgia Constitution guarantees a separation of powers. It guarantees that the legislative branch passes the laws and the executive executes them. The COVID orders have essentially made it so the governor is creating law that's ruining people's lives and businesses and families. So, to the extent that the executive order is still surviving, I mean, I think we really need to see those go down. They've gone down in some states due to judicial activity, but we need more people to be fighting them.
So that leads me right into my next question. Um, you often hear about government agents abusing people and their rights. And to be fair, it's a minority. These broad generalizations, all police are racist kill. I mean, that stuff is ludicrous. But there are real examples where government agents acting under color of law abuse and terrorize people and violate their rights and infringe on their. I mean, these are God-given rights. These aren't even rights that government gave to us that they have the right to take away. So I always hear about this immunity that they have, and it's very difficult to pierce this immunity. But you have experience in this area. Tell us a little bit about how it's possible to hold wrongdoers and evildoers accountable in the court system, even if they are, employed by government, employed by the people.
I will say that immunity is very very difficult to overcome in general, just straight down the line. And I personally think that it's completely invented. I know that it goes back to sovereign immunity. The king cannot be sued. But whenever I hear that and I think about the court decisions that created it, I remember that we got rid of the king for a reason. I mean, we're above the government, not the government above us. So it has been invented. So it essentially what you have to do, qualified immunity is the main thing blocking federal civil rights lawsuits. And to get around that, you generally have to find the specific individual, like the specific officer or government employee that violated your rights and sue them. And then there's this fiction that implies that they're the ones that are on the hook to compensate your client when in reality it's the government doing it, and they still raise immunity. I mean, you essentially have to prove that they've violated people's rights in the same way before and a court has said it, and then you can recover. And it's a lot of legal wrangling and case law. I mean, it usually takes years. I mean, I've seen people pressure washed while in custody by the guards while on camera. I've seen people get shot at night in their own homes when the government didn't announce who they were and the person in the home was just defending themselves. I mean, there's a lot of bad stuff that goes on, but most of the things that are really bad don't even hit the news because the news seems to want to divide us against each other instead of us all being able to sit there and say, guards pressure washing an inmate it isn't good. Like I don't think anybody would say that that's okay. And I think that's a lot of it is we're going to need to see some legislative change. But I mean, there are ways around it, but you got to find a good civil rights attorney that's willing to fight the government.
And that leads me into a broader question. I mean, I'm sure you know, being a lawyer, there's a lot of people who don't have a very high opinion of lawyers. Do we need more good people? There's a lot of young people who watch. There's a lot of young people who are thinking about, what do I want to do in life? Do I want a degree in gender studies, or do I want to, go get a law degree? So for liberty-minded people, do you think it's an effective way to try to promote liberty, to get involved in the legal system, to get a law degree, to join the bar, to be able to litigate these types of cases? What kind of recommendation would you give to young people who do want to get involved, and also to maybe people who are already up there in years? They're not going to go back and get a law degree, but they are interested in promoting liberty in whatever way they can. What are your thoughts on those things?
Well, I think that if anyone wants any help trying to learn, people who are up there in years that are already involved in this, I mean, I would love to help anyone and everyone learn how to go against abusive government officials. I mean, there aren't many constitutional rights attorneys on the plaintiff side that are Republican, but I think that that should be just about all of them because I believe that Republicanism is about individual rights, just like it was started against slavery. So I think we should all be fighting for those rights. And I do think that getting involved in the legal system, if you are already minded and grounded in constitutional rights, I think it's a great idea. I think that part of the problem of the legal system is that it is far easier. And I mean, I'll admit I do some car wreck cases suing insurance companies. They are far easier and take a lot less time and probably have a greater rate of return financially than doing civil rights cases. They just do because of how difficult and time consuming civil rights cases are. But if you have the right mindset of wanting to serve others and help people against abuse and oppression at the hands of tyrants or even just abusive government or big entities that are trying to push around the little guy. I think that it is a noble calling, but you need to have that mindset before going into law school because the I will say that the legal culture does not encourage and push people to fight against rights abuses. I mean, my law partner, Catherine Bernard, regularly takes cases to trial, and a lot of her colleagues always push pleas. And one of the reasons we became partners is because for civil rights claims to be successful, if you're arrested for no reason, you can't take a plea deal. Because if you take a plea deal, even if it's for, like time served or you don't even have to serve a day in jail, it stops you from getting justice for being wrongfully arrested.
Yeah, would you touch on that real quick? That's been a subject that I keep hearing more and more about. People who did absolutely nothing wrong, who take a plea deal. What's the story with that? I hear that prosecutors basically just terrorize people. Hey, you're going to do 100 years in prison unless you give me something. You got to come up with some kind of plea deal. Talk a little bit about that problem and how we might remedy that going forward.
I think that an example might show this best. I met with a guy once who was being held in jail on no bond, and it was over I think some sort of minor drug charge. And what the last offer he got from his criminal attorney, meaning the prosecutor passed it along to his criminal attorney, was that if he if he pleads guilty, they'll let him out right then. But if he doesn't plead guilty and he wants a jury trial, he will continue to sit in jail without bond. And that was the offer he was getting, which when you think about it, it's sort of insane because why would we want someone sitting in jail awaiting trial who's not dangerous? Like if they're dangerous, then why would you want to give them a time served plea and let them on the street? But that's what the prosecutor was offering. So that they regularly do that. They want convictions that make money, especially off the drug war. But there's many other areas where they are like that's the idea. They want the guilty pleas, and if you want your freedom, you either take a plea and then you can't get accountability against the government if it was wrongful, or you sit in jail, losing your life while awaiting trial.
It's just incredible. Alex, in the last minute or so that we have left, where can people find you? What's the best website to find you guys? We've actually interviewed some of your clients. We interviewed the I Do Not Comply guys just recently, and just loved the work that they're doing. How do people get in touch with you if they're in Georgia? They need to reach out to an attorney. And any final words of wisdom that you have for our readers, for our viewers?
Well, I would just say to keep up the fight and to really stand for your principles and try to spread and educate others. I would say get involved locally politically. I mean, I'm president of the Georgia Republican Assembly, which is at georgiara.com. But if you want to find me in the legal practice in the firm is Bernard and Johnson. You can find it at www.justice.law. That's www.justice.law, and you can contact me there and see some of the stuff we're doing.
Hey, I love it. Justice. That's we need a whole lot more real justice in this country. Well, Alex, thank you so much for joining us, folks. The legal front is an incredibly important front in the battle for our freedoms. There's lots of other fronts. We've got to deal with the media side of it. We've got to deal with the educational side of it, but the legal side of it is incredibly important. So share this video out there, help raise awareness. You know as well as I do that YouTube and Facebook aren't going to help get this in front of people. So we really depend on you guys to get the word out. Head over to our website, thenewamerican.com, where you'll find all of our uncensored videos where we don't have to worry about YouTube and Facebook shadow banning us or whatever. And we sure appreciate you guys watching. Thanks again, everybody, and God bless you all.